What's up everyone, welcome back to a brand new video. Last time, we left off with a lot of changes. Cell is still somewhat involved in the story, although he's more so a neutral party rather than being truly good or bad. But what's more impressive is that the Saiyans all have their own unique paths to get power. Vegeta's going to be using Ultimate, while Tarble's going to be utilizing the power of Great Ape somehow, with Goku and possibly even Gohan pursuing godly powers. We'll be looking at that this time. For this part, let's set a like goal of 2,500 likes, and once we hit that, I'll continue with another part to this scenario. Anyways, let's pick up from here. Another interesting tidbit from last time is that not only Frieza is revived, but King Cold is too. The two of them are trained together, ready to get their revenge. Of course, in their training, Frieza would discover a new form of power. That one obviously being his golden form. King Cold would notice this and realize that he has something to work towards too. He may even copy Frieza and use the same golden color that he has. But at the very least, this serves as motivation for him to get stronger too. And the two continue training, working towards this new power. And since Frieza now has a better training partner, one that grows just as strong as him, they're not going to be training for the full 4 months. And with this, the Frieza force descends on Earth earlier than normal. Luckily, there is no shortage of fighters. Really, the only one who'd be off planet is Goku, as well as Cell, who is still a neutral party though. And naturally, the Frieza force is pretty easy to defeat. They were pretty much nothing originally, and here it's even easier. But the real surprise comes when everyone sees who's on the ship. Not only is Frieza there, but King Cold is too. Both have been revived, and they look the same as before. No one's really too concerned though. If they're the same power that they were before, they're not going to really be a challenge at this point. But Frieza and Cold reassure everyone, saying that they have trained. These pesky Earthlings will come to find that they're much stronger than before. But they have news for Frieza and Cold as well. Everyone here is stronger too, not just the Emperor and his father. Frieza steps out of his pod, being one of the first people trying to fight. And what better person to face him than Vegeta? Even in base, Vegeta completely outclasses first form Frieza, causing him to go into his final form. And even when Frieza transforms, base Vegeta is able to keep up still. But the fact that Frieza can even match Vegeta's power at this point shows how much he's grown. Well, there's no point in holding back now. Frieza then transforms into his golden form. But Vegeta isn't really too scared. In response, he powers up too, activating Ultimate. He tells Frieza that fight was a nice warm-up, but now they could finally get serious. The two rush towards each other, clashing. The collision of the two of them creates a massive shockwave, with everyone pretty impressed, except King Cold wants to fight as well. His presence is pretty intimidating for the rest of the fighters, and Gohan's about to step up and face him, but Tarble goes in. King Cold chuckles. This small fry, Vegeta's younger brother? Does he really think he has a chance against the King Cold? Tarble smirks, knowing he has an advantage. In Super Saiyan 2, he faces King Cold, and King Cold wonders why Tarble is so cocky. Sure, he's keeping up with King Cold, but this isn't his full power. Not in the slightest. He reveals to Tarble that he has an evolution in power as well, just like Frieza. They're not too surprised though, so King Cold decides to give them a treat, showing off his brand new power. His ki soars as he begins to transform, his skin now having a golden hue to it, much like Frieza's. He introduces everyone to Gold Cold, kind of a catchy name. Tarble seems shocked for a brief moment, but then goes back to his confident self. Okay, if this is King Cold's ceiling, it shouldn't be too bad. From his pocket, he pulls out a small capsule. King Cold is confused, but Tarble tells him to watch closely. He flings the capsule down, and out of it comes some weird machine. No one is really sure what it is, but Vegeta knows, and of course Bulma does because she made it. Tarble asks someone to activate the machine, so one of the other fighters goes over and presses a button. Immediately, it begins radiating some weird energy towards Tarble. Green rings of energy surround him, with Tarble getting a more serious look. This is a Blitzwave machine, as he begins transforming into a Great Ape. King Cold just laughs at this. Really? A Great Ape? King Cold knows that form is way weaker than Super Saiyan. The size doesn't intimidate him at all, but in his Great Ape form, Tarble looks down at King Cold, grinning once again. A massive golden aura surrounds him as he turns into a golden Great Ape. Everyone looks on kinda terrified, knowing that the last time Tarble did this, he lost control. But of course, he's been training here, and this time he may be able to pull it off. He starts swinging at King Cold, and King Cold dodges all his attacks. Sure, Tarble is powerful in this form, but it still doesn't seem like it's enough. However, it's clear that Tarble has way more control this time, and the more he fights in this form, the more control he gets. But at some point, his eyes then widen. He looks shocked, and no one knows why. King Cold chuckles. This form must have been too much for him, because after Tarble made that expression, he begins shrinking. Has he lost the transformation? Well, not quite. As Tarble shrinks, he doesn't return to his normal self, no. He retains that same humanoid form from before, but as he begins morphing into that form, he looks much different from before. His hair is longer, his eyes are outlined in red, but the most noticeable change, he's covered in red fur. By gaining control of the golden Grade 8 form, Tarble has become a Super Saiyan 4. And while Vegeta and Tarble don't have God forms, they definitely would have access to God Ki at this point. It's pretty much unavoidable, and as we've seen, just having access to God Ki alone is enough to empower you in your base form, as well as your other forms. So this isn't your average Super Saiyan 4, it's much more potent than that. Tarble is amazed, but his confidence returns. He's finally achieved his goal. This is what he was aiming for. Both Vegeta and Frieza turn, shocked to see this new form. Vegeta's proud of his brother, while both Frieza and Cole are confused. With this distraction, Vegeta then attacks Frieza, gaining the upper hand once again, as Tarble then rushes in to attack Cold. Cold defends against Tarble's attacks, shocked to experience this new power. So, the Saiyan harnessed the power of both Great Ape and Super Saiyan. Somehow mutating to whatever this form is, Tarble completely overpowers King Cold now, and lands a punch that sends King Cold flying up into the air. At the same time, Vegeta lands an attack on Frieza that sends Frieza flying. Both Cold and Frieza collide with each other, angrily trying to recollect themselves. The two look at each other and nod, aiming their hands out towards Vegeta and Tarble. They launch a combined attack, as together, Vegeta and Tarble both begin charging a Gallic Gun, launching it. The Brotherhood Gallic Gun overpowers the blast from Cold and Frieza, slowly creeping closer towards them and eventually making contact. With one final push, the two brothers put all of their power into the attack, as King Cold and Frieza are decimated. Out of breath, the brothers power down. Seeing that there's no trace of the tyrants left, they fist bump, with the rest of the fighters celebrating. And this was felt across the universe. Cell notices it from the Supreme Kai's planet, with Goku noticing it from Beerus's planet. They're both amazed and proud. It seems Vegeta and Tarble's training is really paying off. Thankfully, they're able to defend Earth from this threat. But of course, the story doesn't end here. Next up, we have the Universe 6 tournament. As you could probably guess, the team would be very different this time around. Obviously, Goku is still on the team because he is the one with Beerus at this point. He's tasked with recruiting 4 people, so he gets Vegeta, Tarble, Gohan, and Cell to join the team. Cell agrees to this because, well, that's what Cell's like. He just wants a good fight. Even though he's neutral here, he's not really fighting for the benefit of Universe 7. It's more so a selfish desire. But hey, as long as he's helping Universe 7, no one cares. And since everyone has their own method of training now, let's actually rank them and see who's the strongest. So, even though Gohan is training now and has access to God Ki, he may still be the weakest of these 5 because he isn't training as seriously as everyone else or as often. But even if he's the weakest of these 5, he's still stronger than literally anyone else in Universe 7 at this point. So don't underestimate him here. Next would be Goku. Goku would still be pretty strong here and have access to Super Saiyan Blue, but since he doesn't have Vegeta to train with, his training may not be as effective as it once was. Sure, he's still training with Whis, but it's not really the same. And around the same level as him we have Tarble. As I mentioned, even though he only has Super Saiyan 4 and doesn't have a God form, he has God Ki, which does give him a huge boost. Above that is Vegeta, who has Ultimate. And as you could probably guess, Ultimate combined with God Ki is a hell of a drug, alongside the fact that he is a Saiyan, which just makes him stronger by default. And unsurprisingly, the strongest here is Cell. I mean, that's not really a shocker. He has the same crazy potential that Frieza would have, as well as the potential that Saiyans have, not to mention regeneration. And he is training with the Supreme Kais and occasionally just going around space doing whatever, getting smarter and smarter, possibly even stopping by Beerus's planet at points. He's just in it to have fun, and even so, he remains stronger than everyone else. He could possibly be even stronger if he did take stuff more seriously. But that doesn't matter. The whole point of me power scaling everyone here is because, well, the Universe 6 tournament is pretty much a wash. The first 4 fights are pretty easy, which is to be expected, and no one gets knocked out because Frost Poison is overruled. This means Goku swapped out because he's poisoned by Frost, which means Vegeta's up next and he takes out all the other fighters. And against Hit, he actually does seemingly better this time, although he's still really no match. Hit eliminates Vegeta, with Tarble going up next. It's a similar story. Even with his great power of Super Saiyan 4, Hit's time skip is just unbeatable. As for Gohan, that goes the same too. And that means Cell is up next. Cell is stronger than everyone, and regeneration benefits him, meaning he can last longer in fights. Not to mention he has the abilities of a ton of different fighters, as well as access to magic now, both from his time with Babidi and with the Supreme Kai. So this is more of an even match. Hit tries to use his time abilities against Cell, and Cell knows all about them now after watching the other fights. He feigns weakness at first, which leaves an opening from Hit. All he needed was this small opening. Hit attacks, and immediately, Cell begins ramping up his power, freezing Hit in place with his magic and then stabbing him with his tail. He's not looking to absorb a bunch of energy from Hit, just enough to get more data. Plus, if he did that, he may end up killing Hit. But with a brief poke from his tail, he gets enough of that data that he needed, with a very slight boost in power. This would naturally anger Hit, wondering why Cell did that. Cell tells Hit to pipe down. It wasn't like he was planning to kill him or anything. Quit being such a baby, all he did was stab Hit. And that's all Cell needed. Hit now knows not to underestimate Cell, so he doesn't hold back at all. Cell attacks Hit, and this time, Hit's able to use his time skip to outpace him. But just as he does that, Cell does the same thing, being able to attack Hit by using his own time skip against him. Hit's confused, is this another one of his magic abilities? No, Cell actually absorbed some of Hit's power before, and was able to figure out a way to replicate Hit's abilities, although his time skip isn't too effective yet, but having access to it does give him a huge advantage. He knows exactly how Hit's ability works, so not only can he briefly use a weakened version of it for himself, but he knows exactly how to counter and nullify it. What follows next is a fight that will really anger the Galactic King. Both Hit and Cell use their time abilities, and Cell begins to greatly outpace Hit as he adapts more and more. Simply put, there's no way Hit can win here. Cell was already stronger before, but now Hit has no advantage in terms of techniques either. Cell is learning to use the same time abilities, and learning to read every one of Hit's moves. Cell ends up winning the match, causing Universe 7 to win the whole tournament. Goku's kinda bummed. He never really got to show off his full power. You know what? Whatever. He tells Vegeta and Tarble to watch. Although he's not as strong as he was in canon, he still is very strong because he powers up into Blue Kaioken. He was hoping he'd have a chance to show this off to everyone, but he didn't. They're pretty impressed with it. And Goku feels that if he got to fight, he might have been able to defeat Hit with this technique. Cell knows all about this. The Kaioken. He knows about it, but he never actually thought to use it before. Maybe it's something he should look into. Anywho, what's so important about Goku showing off his power? Well, not only does it give Cell some new info that he could use, but Goku showing off this godly power will have some implications. Specifically, with Zamasu. Naturally, he'd still be looking to steal someone's body. He would see the entire tournament on GodTube. And while all the fighters are impressive, there's only two here that really made a mockery of godly power. One being Gohan, who barely even got to show off, and Goku, who also didn't get to show off, but Zamasu still got to see a brief taste of his power. Not to mention there were those two mortals messing with time. And this gets Zamasu thinking, so he's obviously going to go through with his plan, but whose body will he steal? Well, Cell wouldn't anger him too much because Cell technically is a Supreme Kai. He's kinda iffy on the details, but he knows he's more legitimate than the other two. Gohan was using godly power, but he didn't seem too strong, or at least from what he showed off. Vegeta and Tarble weren't really using godly powers. Sure, Ultimate kinda counts as that, but it's really different from what Goku and Gohan were using. Zamasu would likely still decide to steal Goku's body. Even with Cell being the stronger one, Zamasu does have weird logic as we've seen in the anime. He places gods on a different level than others, and even though Cell technically is in a spot where he isn't really a god but also kind of is, he'd probably show some sort of respect and not steal that body and rather go for the mortal's body, despite the fact that he plans to kill everyone later anyways. So, Goku Black still happens, but Trunks' timeline is going to be very different. Eventually, Trunks escapes and arrives back at Cal's Corp, but this time he has 3 other people in the time machine that escaped with him. This time around, someone was able to help Trunks buy some time against Black, helping both Bulma and Mai escape as well as Trunks. Everyone is shocked as they see who's in the time machine. All 4 of them are familiar faces. It's Trunks, Bulma, Mai, and Tarble? Okay, they get why future Bulma's there, and even though Mai's a little bit weird, they kinda understand that, but Tarble? How'd he get there? Naturally, Trunks does have some explaining to do. As a brief side note, future Cell in Trunks' timeline is dead. As I mentioned a few parts ago, Trunks would have taken preventative measures for this, defeating the androids and making sure Cell would never happen. So with that, we could fast forward to the Buu saga. A lot of that went normal for Trunks, except before Shin died, Shin did help Trunks find someone. This was the best opportunity for it. Now that he knows about Tarble in the previous timeline, he wanted to see what's up with Tarble here. Shin was able to find the Saiyan and take Trunks to him. And in the future timeline, Tarble would be pretty much the same person that he was in canon. He was never raised by Vegeta, as I did mention in the last few parts. This is the first time we see future Tarble. He has the same story that he did originally. He was sent away to a different planet because he was too weak, and he just grew up there. Of course, Trunks would fill him in on everything that happened. Tarble's pretty saddened to hear about his brother, and Trunks is pretty surprised to see that this Tarble is actually kinda weak. Tarble in the past was much stronger. And in terms of personality, he was completely different. This guy's kinda soft. But it's good that they met. Trunks is a new ally, and this will really help Tarble later on. They briefly do train for a bit, just so Trunks can test his power and show off Super Saiyan. He hopes Tarble can reach a form similar to this soon, and eventually that time does come. When Zamasu and Black attack this timeline, they decide they want to save Earth for last. They're just going to wipe out every other planet first. Wherever there's life, they find it and kill it. This would eventually lead them to Tech Tech, where Tarble lives. The two split up as Zamasu takes on this planet alone. Tarble tries to help some Tech Techs escape, but of course he'd have to watch as most of the planet gets eliminated. And this is more than enough to awaken Tarble's emotions. With what he learned from Trunks about Super Saiyan, combined with the anger boiling within him, Tarble is able to transform into a Super Saiyan. Shockingly, he transforms and begins trying to fend off Zamasu. Zamasu's surprised. He didn't expect any mortals to be able to fight him here. Too bad Goku Black's off on another planet because this would have been easier otherwise. And even though Tarble is briefly able to catch Zamasu off guard, of course he's not going to do anything. Zamasu will still be stronger than him, and of course he's immortal. But this is enough to serve as a distraction to allow some people to escape. Out of anger, Tarble drives Zamasu into the ground, pummeling him down and trying to cover him in rocks. He knows he can't win this fight, and all that's on his mind is escaping. With this brief distraction, he rockets away towards a ship. Alongside his wife and a few other Tech-Techs, he's able to escape just as the planet explodes. Zamasu gets up, brushing himself off, curious to see where the other Saiyan went. But just as quickly as this happens, the planet explodes and Zamasu realizes that Saiyan's probably dead. He brushes himself off, teleporting to where Goku Black is. Had Zamasu not been so careless, this would have been the end for Tarble. But thankfully, he was barely able to escape, although most of the Tech-Techs ended up dying. Naturally, he decides to head towards Earth. And guess which planet Goku Black was on? That's right, Earth. He's been terrorizing it for about a year, while Zamasu went around pretty much destroying everything else. Tarble's shocked to see the condition of Earth, but thankfully he's able to find Trunks. Even with his ability to sense energy, he can't find Trunks anywhere, but the Scouter does help. He's able to find everyone underground, joining the Resistance and warning Trunks of Zamasu, while Trunks tells future Tarble about Goku Black. But this does come as a shock. Now they know that there's another enemy, and as Tarble described it, he kinda looked like the guy that brought Trunks to Tarble's planet. It has to be a mistake. There's no way. Is there actually a Supreme Kai attacking their timeline? It was bad enough with Goku Black, but this complicates things even more. Thankfully, they were able to escape, and that leads us to where we were now, which is where we're going to leave off for the time being. So, what did you guys think about this part? What do you think will happen next time, and how do you think the Zamasu arc will go? Leave all your thoughts and suggestions in the comments below. I'll be sure to check them out to see what you guys think. As always, if you liked the video, be sure to drop a like. And let's try to hit that like goal from the beginning of the video so we can get another part of this series. If you haven't already, why not subscribe? As well as hitting that bell icon to get notified about any future parts of this What If, or any other videos that I upload on my channel. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you on my next video.